Community Difference Saturday Small Business Showcase is a program created to showcase the work of local business professionals making a positive impact in North Texas communities. Through interviews and stories, we highlight businesses and business owners right in our own backyard, who are working hard to serve our communities and the residents that live there. So sit back and listen to their stories of how their vision, passion, grit, and hard work allows them to serve their communities in very special ways. On this episode of the Community Difference Small Business Showcase, we will be spotlighting Jax Crider with Financial Mastery Simplified, helping people reach financial success on their terms. We hope you enjoy today's show. And now the host of the Community Difference Small Business Showcase, CEO and founder of the Community Difference podcast, Lendon Wilson.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Small Business Showcase. This is a program put on by the Community Difference. If you're in or around the DFW area, you probably see a lot of these shows. We have one in Rockwall, Wiley, Plano, and Frisco. We're looking to add McKinney, Prosper, and a few more communities around. So tune into those. They're all about small businesses and our community. Today, I have the privilege to bring to you Jax Crider, a good friend of mine. She is actually on the Plano and Frisco show. And those are on Thursdays and I'm not sure what week she's on. I guess she can tell us that when she comes on, but we're going to be talking to her today about a passion project that she has. So let's go ahead and bring her on now. Hello, Jax. How are you?
I'm great, Lendon. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to do this with you. It's taken us a minute to get it done.
That's okay.
But we're here. We finally did it.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
So before we get going and before I started my questions, just tell everybody a little, tell us who Jax Crider is.
Yeah, of course. So you were asking, by the way, what shows I'm on. So I'm on Plano and Frisco both. Plano is airs. I'm on the first week, and that's Wednesday. And then I am on Frisco in week 2. So it's a privilege and an honor to be able to be a part of those communities. I have spent a lot of time growing up and living in those communities. So there's nothing better than just serving those communities and helping them grow and helping people connect with people in that community. I am actually pretty much a Texas native. I was born in Oklahoma, but don't hold that against me. I've been living in this area since I was 1. So I've known this area for a really, really long time. And I kind of fell into the financial world on accident. Lynn and I have had this conversation before. Mortgage has been my main job for, over 20 years. And I've also done a lot of other things in the financial space. Like I have a law degree. I did some property and casualty insurance. I've dealt with life insurance and just had a lot of information about financials just in general. And as I saw people in the mortgage side, going to this huge house buying process, I actually decided to kind of shift and do education on a more broad spectrum, which is where Financial Mastery Simplified kind of came from. It's just because I want people to succeed in every avenue, not just the house buying process. And so it's kind of a little bit about me and why we started this whole path, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, well, and you and I do have a background that's a lot alike. I was in mortgage for a while, not 20 years. I couldn't handle it. And I would like to say, anybody that's watching, if you know anything about mortgage, you know that if you make it 20 years, you not only have knowledge and skills, but you have a passion for doing it.
Oh, yes. It is definitely not for the faint of heart.
It is not for the faint of heart. And if you don't know anything about mortgages, if you find somebody's been in it 20 years, that's probably going to be a good person for you, because you can't stay in that business unless you know what you're doing and you're really good with people and you're a good problem solver. So let's get away from mortgage now, and let's get into a little bit about what we're doing with Financial Mastery Simplified. Tell us, if you will, what inspired you to start Financial Mastery Simplified? What personal experiences, insights fueled your mission?
Yeah, of course. So every brand that I hold, the really big core values are always educate and empower, 2 of the bigger ones. And then it's either empathize or equip. And my goal really is to help people succeed financially, right? I would say that I focus a little bit more on women just because that's, of course, who I am. But also just because I feel like that there's a lot of pressure on women. They don't feel like that they have the ability to financially succeed because we're kind of overlooked a little bit in that space. But there's this huge desire as women are starting to be more empowered with their lives to want to seek that financial independence, financial understanding. And like I said, I really want people to succeed broad spectrum. Like, I don't want it just to be like, oh, hey, let's help you buy a house and then that's it. We're all done. I want to help people kind of from the beginning to the end of figuring out their financial path. And I don't always think it has to be the traditional sense. That doesn't always resonate with me. I don't like a lot of the talking heads in my space because I feel like that this is the only way to do it and that's it. And you don't have any other options. And I don't know if it's because I'm ADHD or because my family always talks about me wanting to create my own set of rules. Not really sure which one it is, but I just don't always like that people are always trying to shove people into a box. I just don't believe the box exists. And so I wanted to help people succeed in a way that resonated with them, their goals, their values, as opposed to, well, this is the only way to accomplish this and you have to do it my way.
So being in the industry, working in credit repair, you and I probably could have an hour show really easy, maybe a 3-hour show, because what I learned over time, and this resonates with what you're saying to me, is that so many people were uneducated, and the uneducated people are always the one that get taken advantage of because they don't know the rules. And so I think that, would you say that's really one of the gaps that you saw and why you want to do what you're doing and to be able to serve and really, I mean, there's a lot of people that can do mortgages. There's a lot of people that can finance cars. There's a lot of people that can do a lot of things in the financial industry, but educating people so that they get out of the trap, that is so fulfilling from the seat that I'm sitting in. And I think you would say the same thing. Talk about that a minute, if you will.
Yeah, no, of course. Well, and that is true. So nothing drives me more crazy than when I am dealing with a customer who got taken advantage of because they just didn't understand, right? There was no, like, here's the big rocks. And so then you go and you're empowered to make your financial decision. A lot of people in this space, they just, they see the opportunity to take advantage, or maybe they're not as educated as they should be. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people in the financial space that are not the true professionals they really should be. And it is very, very frustrating for me because no one really usually educates you on the finances. We're not taught it in the school system. You may or may not have had a family that educated you. A lot of families don't, because money is kind of a faux pas thing to talk about. People don't want to, speak to that. And so that creates this huge gap. And so I wanted to make sure that, whatever financial education they either had or didn't have, that we kind of filled in those pieces so there could be some financial success, again, on whatever terms they wanted to be on. Because if you want to live in a tiny house or the biggest mansion on the planet, right, or anywhere in between, that's fine by me. I just want you to understand what you're getting yourself into, how all of the principles work, and then what is going to resonate with you to get to where you want to be.
That's a great. Would you also say that you mentioned, that some professionals aren't as professional as they should be, or would you agree that a lot of those professionals don't have the education to be as professional and to lead people the way they need to lead them?
Oh, for sure.
I think the barrier of entry sometimes is so low that some people can get in with good intentions, but they just don't know what they don't know yet, and they can't pass that along to clients.
Correct. Yeah. The problem and the challenge is that I guess I was raised to be a true professional. And that means, like, learn as much as you can, constantly be educating yourself, constantly be going to like mastermind classes, like, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of people unfortunately get in the financial space because they see dollar signs, because there is a fair bit of money to be made on the financial side, right? And so they see the dollar signs and so they get into it for the wrong reasons, or maybe they're naive, they have the right, like, heart behind it, but then they don't do the work. And I would say that, like, we literally have to save no less than 10 to 12 deals a year where somebody just didn't understand the back end enough. They didn't understand, the big rocks, the different pieces, because there is so many different options in the financial space in general that you can literally paths you can go down. It's just what's going to work best, and also what is actually going to be the best choice for that particular person, that particular client. And a lot of times people just don't do that deep dive to try to figure that out. They're like, okay, great, let's just make this simple, either because of lack of education or they don't care, right? Lack of caring. I hope it's lack of education, truthfully.
Right.
And those people I
believe
actually want to
that it
educate
is.
too.
I believe most people do want to help. I really do.
I
So
agree.
last question in segment 1. So obviously pretty much everybody knows about the mortgage market slowdown and how, you've pivoted. You were one of the ones, and this is something, you've been here 20 years, folks. You have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to anticipate, and you have to have some skills in other areas. You've added courses. You've not just the Community Difference podcast, you've got your own podcast, and you've even written a book. We've got just a few, about 30 seconds. Let's talk about that. And I want to pop up that book for people to see.
I was going to say, I could grab it.
Grab it. And then I'll pop up a little bigger screen so people can see. But talk about the courses, the podcast, and your book real quick.
It's just, again, to sort of start creating an ecosystem of financial success, right? I mean, I don't know exactly where you are in your financial journey, but no matter where you are, I want to help. And so I can only do that by starting to create some of that ecosphere of courses, book, and so that way you can kind of choose your own adventure, pick where you're at in your journey, and allow you to get the education that you need to be able to be as successful as you want to be. And that's really my ultimate goal.
So I want to just share this with everybody about the word ecosystem, and then we're going to move into our segment 2. So let's help them understand what an ecosystem is. I explained it this way the other day. Someone was going like, what's an ecosystem? And I said, do you ever feel frustrated that you're going in all these places, trying to do all these things, and you can't get it all together, right? You can't get into a flow. An ecosystem is when you have it all laid out to where it works in synergy, and you have flow and you have peace. And they're like, oh, okay. What's your definition of ecosystem, Jax?
So that's a really good question. And I think, it's very overwhelming in today's society to try to put these pieces together. An ecosystem for me is going to be where you walk into it, and as opposed to having to go and piecemeal all the pieces together, right? You're able to come in and all of those pieces sort of exist for you. And maybe if it's not exactly in there, they have the resources, the tools, the ability to push you out to somebody that they know and they trust, so that you're not having to continuously do so much legwork, because we're really busy people, right? I mean, we had only one party at home, working, and the other one was staying at home, trying to handle all the other pieces. Now that's not the case. But then we have all this other life stuff we have to figure out. Mm-hmm. So an ecosystem kind of allows you to create. I mean, it's honestly what the Community Difference is doing too. We're trying to highlight all those amazing people in this sphere, in this DFW area, so that you don't have to go out and seek them out on your own, right? And be like, okay, well, who's any good? You can watch the podcast and you can say, wow, yeah, I totally resonate exactly with what Lendon is saying, right? Maybe he's my person. That's the individual that I want to do business with. And you're not having to go out and just pull random people who may or may not interact well together. I mean, it's very stressful. I know that I've dealt with that a lot myself. And so I wanted to create a way that they could sort of come into that world and that space and feel secure and feel supported to get to where they want to be.
Absolutely. I think a good ecosystem really helps eliminate or block out a lot of distractions that would knock you off track in trying to reach your goal. So let's talk about that now. Let's talk about the services that you have and the tools of Financial Mastery Simplified. How does Financial Mastery Simplified differ from some other conventional financial advisors or places that I might go seeking guidance?
For sure. So unfortunately, the way that a lot of people in the financial space feel is that they sort of need to make decisions for the general public. They feel like, okay, here are the big rocks, and they'll tell you those things, and then they sort of want to make those calls for you. Some of the big talking heads in the space, like Dave Ramsey and Suze Orman, I think that they have really great intention, but they don't feel like people can do it in any other way. I believe that there are so many different options. You should be presented the big ticket items of like, here's how these things work on like a purely black and white basis. And then what are the pieces that resonate with you to allow yourself to financially succeed? Because there is no one right way, right? I mean, it could be investments, it could be buying a house, it could be, investing in businesses, right? To create multiple streams of income. There's tons of different ways that you can financially succeed. There is not one true way, but honestly, you'll go to one talking head and they'll say, no, this is the way. And then you go to another one and they say, no, this is the way. And you're like, but
we all have different starting points, so it can't be the same way.
Correct.
Right? We all face different obstacles. So let's talk about some of your success stories. I mean, everybody loves a good story. I want to be able to feel what you're going to do for me, right? So tell some success stories, because I know you got them.
Yes, no, for sure. So we've had so many people that have come to us who never thought that any sort of financial success was going to be for them, that, they had come from either meager backgrounds or maybe just a place where they had a lot of education, but it didn't have anything to do with the financial space. And they didn't feel like they were going to ever accomplish their big goals, whether it be to retire on the way that they wanted to retire, whether it be that they wanted to own a home. There's plenty of people that we've worked with who they honestly never thought that home ownership was for them. I'll never forget, as long as I live, we closed on a lady who bought a house. She was in her 70s and she was legitimately in tears. She said, I never thought I was ever going to own a home. I always wanted to from the time, I could remember. And I just never thought it was going to be something I could accomplish. And I always tell people, the answer is usually not no. It could be not now, but it's not no. Right. You have to figure out the path to success. And if you're willing to put in the work to get yourself there, it's feasible for anybody who wants it, as long as you're willing to put in that work and listen to the experts. The challenge is whether you're willing to do that or not, right?
Right. So let's talk about, one thing that you just mentioned, and when you were talking about the advice, when you have clients that have struggled to implement before, I'm one of those people that years ago, before I got into finances and really started to understand it better and understand that each person is different. I failed a lot of times. I went to people for advice, and that program, I was committed to it. It just wasn't fitting. It just didn't fit. And so let's talk about how people have struggled with traditional advice and how you help them get around that. And we got just about a minute left on this segment.
For sure. So one thing that you have to understand is you're going to have to make sure that you have the ability to have self-awareness. Because no matter what program or thing that you work, if you're not willing to ask yourself really hard questions and face stuff that is going on inside of you, you will never be able to succeed no matter which program you pick, right? So I try to force people to really start asking themselves hard questions that I cannot answer for them.
You got to be truthful to yourself,
succeed.
Right?
Right. Yeah, I can help them succeed, but not if they're not willing to really turn themselves inside and say, okay, like, why do I want to get here? What do I want to do? Because without that, you're not going to be able to get to where you need to go. And so a lot of people, they're focused on like the end result and not like the person at their core. You have to start with you. And so that is what we focus on, is like you, yourself, and I. How do you succeed? How do you ask yourself those kinds of questions, and what it is that you do that's going to really light you up and get you to the place that you want to go? Because that you will put the work in on, because it's something that you desire, not what I desire or what I told you to do, but what you wanted and how you wanted it to like resonate with you.
Yep. That's your goal for you, not my goal for you. So
that's
absolutely. I love that. That's such a great point. So I've decided I'm going to do this. I'm going to be honest with myself. I'm going to be self-aware. I'm going to set my goal. I'm all fired up. How important is a support network?
Oh, yes, for sure. So that is where I've been creating a community of people where you can sort of support each other, right? You can call out the wins, maybe talk about, the struggles, because it's super lacking. People are failing financially, and they appear that everything is going well for them on social media. It looks great. They're taking these big lavish vacations. They live in the ideal house. They have the 2.5 children and the white picket fence and all of the things, and they're not succeeding. where do you go to have these conversations, right? You've got to have a community of people that are not only willing to hold you accountable and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that, or maybe we should think about it in a different way. But you also have to have a place where you can feel vulnerable and put that out there. And so that is another thing that is huge about the community that I have and am creating, is ensuring that you have that safe space to be able to have those kind of conversations, for sure.
That's a very powerful component to what you're doing. We were having a conversation the other day, and we were talking about something like that. It wasn't about finances, but the conversation went to the point of, you have got to be able to be vulnerable without feeling like you're going to be exposed.
Exactly.
So that's what a good support group would do, right? They're going to be there, put their arms around you and help you. So Jax, I think all of that is incredible. I think that there's so many people that need that. Obviously, you're wanting to serve a lot. I see in our notes here your ambitions coming up to 2020 or 2035. Tell us about your future aspirations for Financial Mastery Simplified. I can't say financial today, but I'll get it.
It's okay. Yeah, sometimes that is a funky word. I want to touch 100,000 people by 2035, right? It is absolutely an ambitious goal, but I feel like it's very, very doable, because I firmly believe that finances touch every aspect of your life. And if you're not successful, it is going to touch every aspect of your life. It potentially is going to make or break your marriage. It potentially is going to make or break your friendships, your family, right? How many times have we seen family torn apart by money, right? It is crazy to me. And I firmly believe that if you will just take hold of your financial future, if you will put in the hard work and do the self-reflection with the right tools, anybody can succeed in a way that will resonate with them, and in a way that they'll be able to speak to others confidently and not feel like they are having to hide all of those, ugly pieces, I guess, of like what they feel like they may not be doing as well as they'd like.
Exactly. So one of the ways you're going to reach those 100,000 people is your podcast. Talk about that for a minute.
For sure. So I have a podcast called Financial Mastery Simplified, and we literally do nothing but talk about all things financial and all different kinds of things that touch the space. So things you wouldn't necessarily think of, like your mental health, like mindset, right? And then it could be a lot of traditional ways as well. So for instance, we've talked about the big rocks of how insurance works, because that's really important. If you don't understand how it works, then you don't understand what you're even paying for, right? You might be told by the state you've got to have it, but then how does that actually work? Like, how do I pick the right things? And so our goal is just to give you a lot of good free information on how to start your journey. So maybe you don't have the ability yet to be able to buy courses or coaching or anything like that. That's okay. So start small, but you got to start somewhere. And that's sort of what that is supposed to do, is start framing up the conversations and talking to people who are just like you. Maybe they're not succeeding as much as they would like to, but they're on that path. You're not the only one. Not everybody is as financially successful as you believe them to be. And so we're having those conversations.
A lot of friends sitting beside you that aren't, right? For
sure. I mean, I like, if you ever watch the podcast, literally, I call myself out all the time about the things I don't do to be, I'm like, I'm not always as financially successful as I'd like to be. I joke all the time about my 4,000 purple cups, and I like literally point to them and I bring them up all the time. And it's just because that's real life. That's real life. I mean, I know what I'm doing, and I don't always do it right.
That also shows the value of what you're putting together with the support group, so that you can have some accountability, right?
Sure.
Because if we hide, if we don't have that self-awareness and we hide and we don't have the accountability, we just keep doing the things that feel good today.
For sure.
That aren't going to feel good a year from now. So let's
sometimes
talk about
not even a year from now, Lendon. Sometimes maybe like 3 hours from now, when you realize how much money you just spent that you didn't need or didn't have.
Exactly. Let's talk about how people can support, be engaged, and be a part of your program, and then let's talk about your upcoming initiatives, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely it depends on where you're at in your path. So if you're in a mindset, if you just want to kind of understand a little bit more, the podcast is a great place to start, right? You can get some great free information. We have a ton of free gifts at fms.tips. So if you want to go there, there's like a budget tracker that you can kind of sort of get awareness on where you're at, on where your money is going. And I'm not talking about your big money, like your mortgage or stuff like that. I'm talking about your day-to-day Starbucks runs, the things that are probably blowing up your budget. The things that are probably blowing up your budget that you don't really realize. So those kinds of things, financial affirmations to kind of sort of get your head in the right space. You could kind of start there. If you're a little farther down the path, maybe we're getting closer to like the home buying process. There is the course of House U that will actually walk you through pretty much everything you need to know to not only educate yourself, but to not get hosed, which is really important. There's also the book, Mortgage 101, The Secret Sauce to Home Buying, that will also kind of take you down some of those paths. Both of those two resources actually have checklists and things like that included in them that will make sure that you can do some self-awareness, some accountability to yourself. And then Financial Instincts Framework is my newest program that is going to be both like sort of like a coaching and a group coaching, like a one-on-one and a group coaching that is actually going to take you through a process of financially resetting yourself, right? Like, what are your goals? Like, let's lay them out. Let's figure out how we want to get there, and forces you to do a lot of that self-awareness over the course of, it is a 90-day program, right? You ask about the initiatives of like what is coming up. There will be a whole lot more books and financial programs as well. So some of them will be self-paced. Some of them will be programs that will be like, there'll be like an accountability kind of piece to them, if you will. Because I feel firmly that each person is in a very different place in their journey, right? My goal literally is just to help you financially succeed in a way that resonates with you. So wherever you're at in your journey, I want to meet you there. And that is the whole goal of Financial Mastery Simplified, is truly, let's simplify this. It doesn't have to be as crazy complex as you think it does, right? Literally, if you just take baby steps, I promise anybody and everybody in life can succeed, but you just have to understand the big rocks, and then you have to be self-aware. So if you have these two components, I promise I can help anybody succeed and get to exactly where they want to be.
I believe that you can. I've known you now for quite a while. I want to let everybody know just Jax's commitment. Jax, I learned a lot more about you and what you do today, and we've known each other for a while. So I hope that people watching this take something away from it. Give us your last and final tip, and then we'll close out. But thank you, first and most, for being here today, for sharing your story, sharing your vision, sharing your passion for helping people, because living in financial hell is a very bad place to be, but no one has to be there.
No, they don't. So my biggest and last tip is this. No matter what you do in life, whether you follow my program, somebody else's programs, you have to live with intention. You have to make a conscious choice that you're not going to just wander through life hoping to God that rocks are going to fall out of the sky and bonk you on the head and get you to where you need to be, right? Am I suggesting that everything has to go perfect? No, I'm not. But if you don't have a plan and you don't have a pathway that you want to walk down, then you're never going to get to where you want to be, no matter how bad you want it, because you don't have any sort of set intention and set plan. And so again, whether it be you're getting my help or someone else's, just ensure that it's going to resonate with you and that you are living with that intention, because without it, you aren't going to succeed in the way that you want to. You just won't.
Absolutely. Well, Jax, thank you again for sharing your story today and giving us information. I want to thank everybody for watching Small Business Showcase on Saturdays, and just tune in next Saturday, each and every Saturday, and watch a new one. So we will see you all later. Thank you all for watching.
Thank you for watching today's show. The Community Difference Small Business Showcase is brought to you by the Community Difference Series podcast of Frisco, Little Elm, Plano, Rockwall, and Wiley. If you are a business owner or know a small business owner who would like to be featured on our Small Business Showcase, please email us at lendonw@thedifferenceradio.com.